truth?
Oh, I'm all ears.
Okay. The truth.
I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Why do you find it so easy?
It's never been easy.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
Hello and welcome back to Truthful Talk. We are here once again to do this show, which is really not about anything in particular, just about whatever we want to talk about that day.
Yeah.
And in that moment. I'm Marco. This is Natalie.
Hello.
And we are back with you once again. Our whole thing is we want to be truthful. We want to bring about subjects that we might not normally talk about otherwise. Sometimes we do, but, you know, it's all about just having a truthful conversation.
Right.
In this moment.
Very simple.
That's it. It's very, very, very simple.
Very simple.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we have our best conversations before we actually start recording the podcast, and which happens every time. But it's good to have you back with us once again. And today, well, we have to shift our focus now because we were talking about news, but we'll shelve that.
Maybe let's shelve that. Yeah,
for a different one.
Yeah, that's the next one.
That's the next one. Maybe we'll come back and talk about that. But no, what I really wanted to talk about today is coming back into the arts and into acting, and because I get this question a lot, is the difference between film acting and theater acting, and because I have so many people that come out to see us or want to. You know, they are asking questions about the studio or training or anything else. And they say, well, I want to be a film actor. I want to go into film.
Right.
So how do I do that? And there's a misconception that there's different types of acting. In other words, there's a misconception that you can go get film actor training versus theater actor training versus commercial actor training versus whatever.
Right.
And it's just not true.
No.
And the weird thing about that is because I was one of those, put that in quote, those, meaning my love for this whole art form was film because that's what I was exposed to.
Right.
Film acting and TV acting and everything else. So when you get into it, it's like, oh yeah, I want to go into that. So I can understand how the misconception of, oh, well, let me find somebody that teaches how to work in film.
Yeah.
Only to realize that direct to film acting is not real training. Meaning it's not going to get you where you need to be if you are looking at being in the upper echelon of the industry. Right?
I'm just, it's like hitting me in waves. Yeah, and I'm taking it all in because, oh yeah, I'm right with you. But yes, yes, there's so many things that I want to say, but I want to let you continue your thing. But yeah, it's all the same.
and not to say that, you know, because there's when you look around wherever you are in the country, there's all these classes that you're going to find like all over the place. I mean, including in LA and in New York and any big city and even smaller ones. I mean, there's just all sorts of what you would find as acting classes. And what has become the most common quote unquote acting class is the once a week format where you're doing what usually is known as like scene study. You show up to class. It's many of the classes are you can just join whenever. Like the ones in LA, it's not a regulated semester necessarily where there's a start and an end date. It's just, you know, you come as you want and you pay, you know, for when you're there and you just jump in. And you can do a monologue, you can do a short scene, you can do different things. And then the instructor will kind of direct you and guide you into how to possibly do it better. And that's it. But there's really no process to it. And the thing about film acting, there's no process to film acting, not directly, not when you're training in what people call film acting. But underneath it all, acting is acting is acting. And what I try to tell students is, well, you really learn how to act in theater.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't want to be a theater actor. I'm like, you don't have to be a theater actor. Like, you don't ever have to go to Broadway and go to New York and try to do that route. But you learn how to act in theater. And so you should always be doing theater somewhere. And it can be community theater in whatever city you're in. It can be, it doesn't matter. But you need to be doing live performance theater acting because that's where you actually learn the craft. There's no way to learn the craft directly in film.
Right.
And so that's the misconception. It's like, oh, I'm going to take this once a week class. They're going to teach me the basics of film. And in 4 months, 6 months, I'll have everything I need. And then I can move to Atlanta, move to New York, move to LA, wherever it is. And I can start working in film. And I'll get a small role in the film. But as I'm working, I'll be able to work my way up into bigger, better parts.
Which seems logical. It seems like the steps
logical
that one would say, okay, this is how I'm going to map this out. I got this.
Right. Because it seems like, oh, I'll do a small part, then I'll do a bigger part, then I'll do a bigger part. And eventually I can be a lead in a series, or I can be the lead in a film or something. But sure, because I'm working my way up. And logically, yeah, every part I could do could be a little bit bigger and I can get there. But that's not how it works. And that isn't how you get there.
Tell me more, Marco. How does it work?
And the biggest misconception is that, well, first of all, yes, you could very quickly work in film or television as an extra or a background actor. Takes very little to no training. And even with the little training, you can get, you can be recognizable on screen. You might not have a line to say, but you could be recognizable on screen. You could be, in one of those things. And you do that a few times. And then maybe they give you a line of dialogue to say. You're the check-in clerk at the hotel or something. And, here's your room. And, you have that one line to say with the main actors. And it's really cool. And it's like, it's exciting, which it is. And then we figure out, well, from there, if I can do one line, I could do 2 lines. And if I can do 2 lines, I could do 3, and then I could do 5. And then once you hit the 5 threshold, you're in a different category. You're now into what's called a day player. And day players, you're now paid, because if you're under 5 lines of dialogue, you're paid differently. It's called an under 5, and it's a lower pay scale. Basically, you're considered part of the environment. But then when you get into a day player, you might actually have a small character and something else. So you can work your way up to these things. But at some point, someone's going to say, hey, you know what? There is this movie coming out, and it's out of LA, and it's a big movie, and I think you should audition for it. You've been working for 2 years as day players and doing all these smaller roles. Maybe it's your agent that says, what if I submit you for this? Like, okay. And then you get submitted for it. And now you're up against out of work A-list actors. Like, you're going for a job that people from the industry are also auditioning. They just don't happen to have a job right now.
Right.
They're out of work A, B-list actors. And you're going against them. And the thing is, you don't have the level of training that they do.
Yeah.
Because working in the industry, in the film industry, doesn't give you that training. It's so technical, you don't learn the art of the craft. And now you're expected to work opposite a big actor, or you're supposed to go, your audition needs to be at that level. You're at that Viola Davis or Jennifer Lawrence or, Tom Hanks, Denzel, like you're at that level that you have to be bringing that level of performance, and you don't have the training or the tools or the experience of how to get there. And so the audition doesn't go well. And then you don't get it. And the casting director tells your agent, well, they're just not ready yet. I think they need some more training. And then maybe you can resubmit them for something in a year. Well, the agent doesn't have that type of time. So they end up saying, well, I've used you in every day player role I possibly can, and you're not ready for this next step. So I'll tell you what, go get some more training, and then we'll try again later. But in the meantime, they stop sending you out on things. Because you're no longer somebody that's going to help them get to the next level.
Right.
So they replace you with a quote unquote fresh face of somebody that they can start resubmitting into the lower rungs again, making money off of this person, when hopefully maybe later that person will get them that shot.
Right. Who's probably trained, that maybe the agent also will learn their lesson if they're choosing someone who's untrained as an actor, you know.
Oh, agents don't learn. Man, agents don't learn.
That should be a bumper sticker too.
Oh my God. I want to have all the agents on this
Wouldn't
podcast at
that be-
once because we can talk about stuff and just get it out in the open of saying, what are you doing?
I love that.
I would, if they would come on, I would love that because
Manifest
it's like, what are we doing here? Why are you taking on talent in your agency that is not worthy of taking on yet?
Yeah.
Because we could change the game. The agents here in the Southeast could change the game by restricting their talent list to actually qualified talent.
Yeah.
But it's a money game, and it's about running a business. It's about making money. And if it's like, oh, you know, I'll bring on this person because I might be able to make money off of them, not because it's good for the industry.
Right.
And that's how we're playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, you know, it's an interesting thing because there's really a misconception, and there's so many acting classes that you'll run into that will sell you on the fact of, oh no, you can get into the industry and you can be a film actor just going through it. It's a once a week class. It's for 8, 10, 12 weeks or whatever. That's it. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. There are some classes out there that will say, hey, just 2 sessions with me and you'll know everything you need to know.
Right.
And it's like, well, and here's the bait and switch of it all is, yes, they can get you into the industry, but they're not telling you you're not going to be able to move up within the industry. Getting into the industry is becoming an extra, a featured extra. There's so many, I see so many acting classes when they post, oh, look at all of our actors and what they're doing in the industry. And it's like, yeah, they're all featured extras, or they all have under 5s. They all have, I mean, it looks impressive from the outside.
Sure.
It's like, wow, this person was on this person was on that. That's really cool, which is awesome. But the truth of it is, it's not difficult to do that step.
Yeah.
The harder training, the deeper training is training to go up and be a supporting role on television or film, right? A lead role you want to lead a Netflix series, you know, hopefully, instead of just be in it in the background.
So you have to also know, like what you're saying is what is your goal? Because then you can say, yeah, then that teacher over there, that's the one for you. If you just want to have whatever, like I said, below 5, or what do you call it? What is it called?
Below 5.
Below 5.
Or under 5.
Or under 5, or featured extra, whatever that is. Because then you separate those who's like, no, but my goal is to be a lead or be an A-list actor or be at that level where I can actually produce that type of work ethic that is just as good as someone else. So I am a contender for it. No one's going to ever say to me, she's not trained or she doesn't know what she's doing. They might just say, casting wise, she's just not what we're looking for whatever. That's out of your hands.
Right.
But you then build the opposite reputation, like, well, not for this one, but the next one. I want to call her for the next project we're working on or something. So the reputation that precedes you is through your work ethic and your professionalism, I think.
Yes.
So either one can snap you back or snap you forward. But if you're willing to pay that price of the longer game, and I know people are impatient now, not everyone, but the quality of what you're putting in and what you get from your teacher is very, very important. And then so finding a place that is, that's why Truthful acting is, we love it so much, because it's a in-depth everything that we go through. Because also on a side note, what happens when you're in one of these one day a week classes and you are rocking and rolling? You're doing really good. You on Zoom, you look banging. You can do a self-tape and it's fantastic. It's wonderful.
Right.
And then you have what's, I think, devastating is a false sense of confidence. Because now, if you fall from that, if somebody says, well, you need to get training, that kind of, now you got to turn around and emotionally be like, you have to be aware of that. If somebody that you trust or whatever, or I've heard this before, friends of mine who don't have deep training, who have worked in smaller things or some of the theme parks, that think that that level of acting is good enough to compete with people who have been training for years, I'm always
Right.
scratching my head like you live in Oz. Wicked. But it's like you not living in reality.
Right.
These women and men have trained their craft. So they're ready to do whatever needs to be done. Meaning is the director who's casting says, oh yeah, all this money that I have that I'm going to be producing this movie, I trust this person with that amount of money.
Yes.
Because she's going to deliver under
Right.
whatever. And they fail to see that whole picture. And so if you want to be someone who can skate by luck or whatever, I think that's kind of foolish, but I let you do whatever you want. I would rather be the person that can confidently go in grounded and be of useful service to the director and everybody involved, the castmates, the crew, everybody. Just the confidence that it gives you is invaluable.
Well, the one thing you said is it depends on where you want to be in the industry.
Yeah.
It is, listen, there are people, if you just want to be a featured extra, right? Meaning a featured extra. So extras and background mean you're the people in literally the background of the scene, typically out of focus. Like, let's say it's a restaurant scene where we're on 2 people in the restaurant. Well, we fill the restaurant with other people to make it look like it's an actual restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So those people in the background are called extras. And a featured extra is somebody that is within focus, like it's somebody that's recognizable on screen as an extra. And that can be fun because you actually see yourself on screen and see yourself in this movie or TV show. It's fun. And if that's all you want to do, then yeah, one of these once a week classes are great.
Mm-hmm.
An online class with somebody is great. I mean, those things are wonderful for that. But if you have any aspiration of being in like a working actor in LA or, like on TV, in movies, like as actually a named character, if you have any aspirations of doing that, you have to train deeper.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason Hollywood turned to London.
I love that.
There's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the training in America dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that the training overall dropped, because there's still the big conservatories in New York,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's still our conservatory in Orlando. There's still there's still good training in Chicago. There is forms of training in LA. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I mean, it's different in LA. But I mean, there are the things that were in place that the older regime of actors, the Morgan Freeman and the Al Pacinos and the Denzel and all of those actors, the American actors who went through the conservatory deep level theater training, that still exists. But in addition to that, this, which is way more prominent, the quote unquote acting class, the once a week, non-structured, we're going to give you little tidbits here and there. And it's all for film acting, like all of that stuff that has come up. And of course, it's more accessible. It's cheaper, right? You don't have to have as much of a commitment to do it. It's not as intense. It's direct to film, which is what most, new students want. It's not theater. It's all of these things that you look at it and it's like, oh yeah, well, comparatively, I can take another acting class compared to Truthful, for example, right? Or you go to New York and you have all the big conservatories and it's like a multi-year commitment plus a lot of money. And it's like, no, I'll just do this once a week class instead. So we choose it based on convenience, based in finance, based in all sorts of different things. But then we can't compete. So the level of training in America has dropped significantly. In Hollywood at some point, which was through the 90s, said, where are all the new actors? Where's this new generation of actors that are well trained? And they were having a hard time finding them here because many of the well-trained actors were on Broadway. And so Hollywood does, and they continue to try to pluck out of Broadway for Hollywood, for film. But many of the theater actors don't want to move. They don't want to make that change. So they had to find well-trained actors somewhere else. And where they turn? They turn to London.
And on another note, when you talk about the training in theater or a conservatory, Marco, what you're doing with the scripts and what you're doing with and I mean a play, like a whole play, you're actually learning how to break down everything. It's crazy. I think that the film is such an easier transition for a theater actor because they study the plays and all that stuff, and they know how to go on this journey with this character and discover things and work through so many things to meld you and the character and becoming one. But that the logical brain also knows that, okay, well, now I'm in a movie and everything is filmed out of sequence completely.
Right.
So I can't imagine somebody who's not someone trained with that can go into a movie and look at the script and just know that the climax of the scene is the first thing we're shooting. And then it blows my mind. Like, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah.
It would seem to be more difficult to do, I would think, than the other way around. When you're able to go in sequence and work out and discover things play after play after play. So when you do get a script and you're in 20 out of the 40 scenes, that you're able to execute, not have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, you have to know how to work with it, how to work with the entire script. And that's one of the main differences. So here's why I say that actors need to learn in deep level process, or what is now known as theater acting. Because to me, acting is acting is acting. It's not like we learn. There's not a difference, believe it or not, acting wise. There's not a difference between film acting and theater acting.
Or voice acting.
The voice acting is part of this equation as well.
Yep.
Voice acting is absolutely part of this equation as well. It's all the same from a process standpoint. What's different is the technical medium, meaning the medium of standing on a stage to a live audience is different than standing on set in front of a live camera. But we have to adjust our performance technically based in the medium, versus voice acting. We're just adjusting it for the voice itself without having the luxury of people being able to see us.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the training underneath it, how to step into character, how to make it personal to yourself, how to have an emotional life, how to, like, all of those things that we do are all learned in deeper process.
Mm-hmm.
Film acting is not about the technical layer of it. The technical layer can be taught in a semester, which I do at TA.
Mm-hmm.
I have a film semester, which I'm going through right now. And I can teach all of the different technical elements, how to hit your mark, how to have stillness within the frame, how to not blink for so long, how to, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
All of those things. And then because, yes, in film, we're typically shooting 30 seconds at a time.
Right.
Each take is about 30 seconds long, and that's it. If we're lucky, we'll have a minute to a minute and a half take. If as the actor, we're lucky to give us some level of momentum in the scene. But otherwise, it's a collection of these very short pieces that we have to then give. And then we have to cut. Okay, let's go back to one. We're going to do a second take. Great. We do the same thing again. Cut. Great. Back to one. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. So we're doing the same 30 seconds over and over and over on different takes. Then they move the camera a little bit, and then we do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Then they move the camera to the other side, and we do it again. We're doing the same 30 seconds over and over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very repetitive. It's very short, these little sprints. Our acting doesn't have to be great, even during the entire 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
If I get a couple seconds of good acting out of that, great. They can use that in the edit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so technical. Acting is what we call a filmmaker's medium. Because it's what the director and the editor are the ones that put that together. They're the ones that make my performance look good or don't.
Mm-hmm.
But on stage, in theater, that's the actor's medium, because it's you on a stage and it's you in the audience, and maybe it's you and your scene partner in the audience, but that's it.
You take ownership. That's a new word too. That's been like with me in the last couple. Like you get to have ownership and responsibility of your work on stage. I don't know. Like it's yours.
Oh, it's yours. And if the show is a good show that night, it's because you did your job.
Mm-hmm.
If the show's not good, it's on you.
Right.
Like, I love the responsibility of it being all on the actors.
Mm-hmm.
Like we carry that weight. So to me, stage is the actor's medium.
Mm-hmm.
And every night we walk out there and we do it again. Now, on stage, we do have momentum, meaning from the start of the show to the end of the show, it's running live.
Right.
And so we can have momentum and we can get into the scene more and we can do more with that. It feels better, but we learn. That's where we truly learn the art of the craft of being in the moment, of staying in the moment, of fighting for something, of doing all of these things that's not necessarily manipulated in film. In film, I could make an actor look a certain way just on how I edit it.
Mm-hmm.
But on stage, it's happening live. And this is why all of the big British, Australian, South American actors, like all the ones that are in conservatory training, like all these big British actors, I mean, you know, of course, they're introduced to us and they're like, wow, they're brand new. And it's like, well, no,
overnight success.
Yeah, overnight
they just
success.
They just walked in a casting one day. And
they've only been working for 12 years in it, but you know, we just don't see that because they're from London. But they've gone through university training and then they've gone through conservatory training. Conservatory simply means deep level process in that particular art form. In America, most conservatories are musical conservatories.
What's the repertory one?
And then repertory comes after. So repertory is running things in succession. So it's so in other words, in repertory, you're as an actor, you might be working in a couple different things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But you're constantly just working and working. It's almost like a group theater or troupe theater where you have a group of people.
Yeah.
And we're, okay, now, you know, this week we're doing this. Next week we're doing that. And it kind of just runs through that cycle of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what they'll do in London. They'll go through, after their conservatory, they then go into repertory theater. And they're used by different theaters to put up many different shows, Shakespearean and modern and...
Mm-hmm.
But they just on stage.
Yeah.
All the time.
Love that.
Constantly over and over and over and over and over again, getting that that experience.
Muscle.
The muscle.
Musculature.
They're training.
Lean. They're training.
They're training. And so, you know, then, you know, one of the next things that happens is, you know, new students or potential students will say, yeah, but, you know, there are so many actors that go right to film. I'm like, well, no, they're all theater actors.
Mm.
We just don't realize they're theater actors.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing theater in a theater near you. I mean, it's, you know, theater is advertised locally to the people that can attend it.
Right.
If you're in New York, you would be amazed. In Manhattan, you'd be amazed at all of the celebrities, that film celebrities that you see in theater.
Yes. May I say, the wonderful, talented Miss Alethea Quinn is in New York now, and I just saw her not too long ago. We watched a show together, but she watched another one. I sent her a Happy Thanksgiving. She sent me a photo of her taking a selfie with Marissa Tomei, who was an Oscar-winning actress, who she was doing a play. She's doing like a brand spanking new play, and Alethea says, "Yeah, I was talking to some of the classes she was taking about like." Plays and new plays and stuff like that. She's like, I had to stop myself basically. It's just like, Alethea, know your audience. This is New York City.
Yeah.
All this stuff is fresh. But all these people are also these celebrities, if you will, but Oscar-winning actors. These are not just came out of the, you know, worked at Target one day and decided, you know, as now in Broadway. They've been training and still, even after great success, are still doing theater.
Yeah.
I was heard Marissa tell me it was so cool. Like,
well, we don't realize it unless we're there.
Yeah. And that's what she was saying from being in Orlando so long and then going there. She's like, oh my gosh, I forget that this is the culture here.
And that's why, you know, and if you're in New York, it's a little easier because you see all these big film, TV actors working on stage. You kind of get it. And also in New York, you have big conservatories. You know, Juilliard, NYU Tisch, the William Esper Studio, the Stella Adler Conservatory. I mean, you have all these really big conservatories. And so it's easy. The Neighborhood Playhouse. I mean, there's one after the next. There's all these different great conservatories. And so it's a little easier to get into the correct form of acting when you're surrounded by
support
of, oh, this is what it means.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you see them living their dream, or you see that it's what you're training to do, you know, trying to get
Meryl
to that
Streep
level.
is on Broadway, and then you have Philip Seymour Hoffman used to do a ton of theater.
There's someone else. Well, we do. I just saw Sunset Boulevard, and that's Nicole Scherzinger, who's a singer, and it was a musical, and she was. That's the show that we saw, which was pretty awesome. Talking about the difference between theater acting and quote unquote stage acting, that the difference, and there was no difference. That was, anyways.
Because you had seen the film and
it wasn't the film. What I saw was, it was a musical. It was a black box musical.
Okay.
And what was interesting about this was that the director incorporated a steady cam being held by one of the dancers that would follow the actors when they were talking with each other, singing with each other. So you actually have a close-up of them, because behind the actors is a giant theater screen. But that came out only once in a while. It wasn't constant. It wasn't like you were watching them do that constantly.
Right.
So what I'm just saying is the stillness that these people had, and they were singing, and they were it's so still. The emotion, the meaning they had behind their words was all there. You could feel it. Maybe you could feel it more because they're singing. Nobody was pushing anything. Nothing was unbelievable, if you will. It was all. So I thought that was a kind of a masterclass in, there really is no difference between theater acting, stage acting and film acting. They're one and the same. And that was a great example of how to be able to there is none.
Yeah, because all the skills that we learn in deep level process, we call it theater training just because there's we differentiate it, but it's not necessarily theater training. It's to me, it's training.
Yes.
And so in that deep level process training that we learn on the stage, it is adaptable then to film. We just changed the focus on stage. Things can tend to be more external. Where in film, it can be more internal. Mm-hmm. There's different levels of focus like that. But the acting is the same. The emotion is the same. The meaning and what you're fighting for and all of that is the same. The process is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why Hollywood looks for actors that are trained in a deep level process. And they've all you have need to do is look at who they're hiring.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason they're spending a ton of money hiring people from a different country to come over to do American film in an American accent, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason they're spending all of that money, simply because these are better trained actors. And it's not that you can't get the training here in the US, it's that you have to choose to get the better training here in the US. You have to choose to do deep level process training, which is conservatory. It's going to be theater based.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. That's where you have to understand, and you have to not allow yourself to have that moth to a flame, like a lure to these shorter, quicker classes. Because we live in a society where we want it now. We want it faster.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, well, you'll come to me and I'll say, yeah, learning to be an actor is a multi-year process. It could take really a decade to settle in. But, it's going to take you at least a few years to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to another class in town and they'll say, oh, no, you come with us. And in 6 weeks, I can have you submitting into Atlanta.
Yeah, sure. You can submit all you want.
And it's like, well,
doesn't mean they're going to.
It's like, well, I'm going to go the shortcut.
Right.
But this industry, like anything else, I always like to look at it. If you're wrongly convicted of a major crime, and you're put in front of the courtroom, do you want your lawyer to be one of the best trained lawyers and the best, right? One of the best lawyers there are? Or do you want someone that took some correspondence course and did it in 6 weeks?
Yeah. Got a certificate.
That's their first time in front of a judge, so no, you don't. If you have to have open heart surgery, do you want someone that was there and did the training and is like top of their class and all of that, has a lot of experience in this? Or do you want the person that did kind of an over the summer condensed,
And they're going to be able to tell. They will eventually be able to tell. Maybe not right away, but something's going to happen where somebody who knows what they're looking for is like, oh, wow, this person, you need to go back to technique.
Well, and that's the sad thing. And I feel bad for students that don't understand it. So when students are training and Because I don't mind that there's all this training out there. I think it's great. Train.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, different instructors, different places. I think it's great. I have a problem when these classes tell you not to train anywhere else or to, like, this is all you need. Don't train there.
Right. That's a red flag.
And then, because then to me, it's like, well, wait a minute. No, you can go and train in a once a week class. Maybe that's all the time you have, all the money you have right now. So you get started and train, you learn as much as you can, and then go to a conservatory when it's right for you.
It's like an appetizer, if you will.
Yeah.
You can see it as an appetizer, like go ahead and try if acting is your first thing or whatever, or you have like affordability, whatever that is, and that's right up your alley and you have that, or a time constraint, sure, like go ahead and do that. But long story short, do yourself a favor, and you're investing in yourself in regards to time, money, of course.
Yeah.
And afterwards, if you want to go and look at other classes and courses that are available, what I found was like, oh, okay, let me sign up for something, which I did. And I'm actually confounded because there are some beginning students that are there, different age brackets, not many, but all I keep thinking to myself is like, I feel bad for them. And I have been training for so long now that even that teacher knew when I was taking these courses. It was like, I know the language. I know how to execute certain things very quickly. I know what he's dropping on me. And these poor people that are spending lots of money on this have no idea. They're nowhere near ready.
Right.
They shouldn't be in that course.
Right.
And so even if it has quality, it's like you're not ready to absorb that all because you have to have a place to practice it with, like we were talking about, with the teacher in person.
Yeah.
It's not just a one trick pony. And
well, and that's where theater helps as well, because there's a lot nowadays. We have correspondence courses, online courses, whether it's online, like live and Zoom, or it's online correspondence where you do at your own pace. There's a lot of online courses and a lot of YouTube, but there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 30 hours of stuff on YouTube, but it's, the problem is you can't learn acting in a vacuum. You can't learn acting just on your own, in your own room with nobody else around. You can learn the theory of acting that way.
Yes.
And there's certain skills like memorization and stuff you can learn to work on, but then you have to apply it.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford, which is fine, right? You can't afford to apply it by taking a class to do it because you don't have the money or the whatever, then do community theater, do church theater, do some kind of theater. Get together with a group of other actors and just do theater. But it requires the live connection.
Yeah.
It requires getting together in a room and doing it together.
Yeah.
It requires that. It's very difficult to learn acting and do acting only online. I think online is a great tool as a supplement, but you also then need to get together and apply what you've learned.
For sure.
In some way.
And what you're saying too about obviously it's a collaborative thing, especially that high level training that you're talking about. But there's something to be said why there's a director, because that person or that teacher is going to be now watching your work and obviously critiquing you for the betterment of your craft. You cannot, good luck, you cannot be the actor and the director at the same time. No. You cannot.
No.
And that's so difficult. People think they can do that. And it's like that. Oh my God.
No, you really can. Not for good level acting. And I know there's always the people that want to bring out exceptions. Yeah, but what if this? And what if when Zach Braff did it in Garden State? And I'm like, listen, I'm not saying you can't do it. You can take your own money. He took his own $5 million, invested it in Garden State. He produced it, directed, wrote it, starred in it. But believe it or not, even if you're directing the film that you're starring in, you have somebody else directing you while you're acting.
You need it because
you're not directing yourself while you're acting. There's still somebody else that you hand the reins over to.
Yeah.
That is doing that. Now you might come back and later you look at all the dailies, which is the footage.
Never.
You look it through and you make the decisions on what you're going to use and how you're going to edit it together and everything else, which is why you're giving yourself director title. But even when that's happening, you still have somebody else directing you.
Yeah.
You need outside eyes
You need that
to guide you and to mold you. I mean, so, you know, and those are the very few exceptions when someone is actually writing, directing, producing, and acting.
And he's been doing it for years or decades. I think he was a child star, you know, like doing this for a while. So it's not someone just, again, fell out of the turnip truck and then like, I'm going to do all this, whatever it is, at a high level where your stuff is believable and, you know, meaningful and
Exactly. It's really important. And this is a debate that goes on in this country. It doesn't go on in other countries, not as much as this one, because it's an American concept to separate film from television. You go over into the UK and acting is acting is acting. It doesn't matter where you want to go into acting. They have training for actors and it's deep level process and it's theater. And that's it. And then you can take that and apply it to wherever you want. It's the American... the capitalism. It's, you know, in the early 90s, you had some older actors that maybe, you know, not celebrity actors, but older actors that wanted to do something else with the next phase of their life. And they're like, what can I do? Well, I can teach what I've learned. And they started these once a week classes that really weren't process based at all. They were just, well, I'm going to go. I had 20 years in the industry working mid-level. I'm going to teach a class, and if people want to come to it, I'll teach them what I've learned and the things I've learned. And that kind of spawned this whole new direction of these once a week classes.
And if you're a working actor like they are in Los Angeles, I think they're beneficial because you have a script or something you're working on or a piece of material and you go in and that's what you are exercising, the gymnasium of whatever that is. So there's a place and time for some of these things to be able to have and that utilize, but coming in blindly and expecting that, I think is a little bit naive.
You know, LA is not the best place to learn acting.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, LA, because LA has an expectation, and the expectation of LA, meaning Hollywood, is that if you are making the attempt to work in the Hollywood studio system, you already have your training. So the classes that you'll find in LA predominantly are for people who already are trained and that are working in the industry and that need to come to something to just like, hey, I got this new script. I need help working on it.
Yeah.
And so you bring your own material to these classes, you work on it. They help guide you. They help break it apart. They help, you know, maybe help you make stronger choices to the material. But it's for working actors.
Yes.
It's not for beginning actors. Now, they will allow beginning actors in because they will take your money, but you're not going to learn a process.
Right.
That's the issue with LA.
Yeah.
New York, yes, there are so many conservatories. They're all over the place. And yes, you can definitely learn deep level process. It's expensive. So you just have to be careful about that.
With a capital E.
It's expensive. Well, just New York is expensive. And then the conservatories are very
expensive.
So you want to try to find something. And then there's smaller conservatories like ours, which you'll find in Chicago. We have one in Orlando. I mean, you might find them here or there. And that's something that we try to offer, something that's less expensive, you know, definitely than New York or LA. And that will give you the same level of foundation that then you can either go to New York or LA and then compete. And so, but you need to find something. You need to find something that is deep level and theater based. And I know it's tough. And I know you might not want to work in theater. I promise you, people only say they don't want to work in theater until they actually have theater training. And then it's like, oh, I want to work in theater.
Right.
Because that's when you because theater is the art. I'm not talking about musical theater, even though it can be. But it's not limited to musical theater. Like, no regular normal plays and dramas and comedies and things like that. But that's the playground of the art form. And actually, I wanted to play the clip. I have a clip of, this was on an interview because Gladiator 2 just came out. And this was an interview on CBS Mornings with Denzel Washington, Paul Mescal, and Connie Nielsen. And this is just a small snippet of it, of Denzel talking about the importance of theater. So let me see if I can figure out technology. And here we go.
I'm doing Othello on Broadway in the first of the year. That's going to be That's
It's the
3 hours.
The stage is
Right.
more demanding than
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why?
Because it don't stop. Because nobody says cut.
So why do you keep going back to it?
Because that's where you learn how to act. You don't learn how to act in movies. Don't ever leave the stage.
No.
You don't learn how to act in movies. Acting in movies are a filmmaker's medium. When you can do the best, what you think is the best, and he can be pushing in on your foot while you're making your biggest speech.
Yes.
You've been there?
Oh my God. The heartbreak. Literally, you just took my heart and threw it against
The 3 months you spend in preparation, and I'm there, and I know I delivered, and they're on the other guy.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So that
How sweet. Oh my God.
and it's interesting. So when he said, you learn in theater, and he said, don't ever leave the stage. During the interview, as he's saying that, he's pointing right at Paul Mescal, who's the young actor in Gladiator.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Gotcha.
He's the young star.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's pointing right at him, don't ever leave the stage. Because you get allured into Hollywood and you're like, oh, I can keep doing this. With someone like that Denzel, who's been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
The stage is what keeps you grounded. The stage is what gives you longevity of your career. He said you can't learn acting in film, and you don't learn it in movies because it's so technical. Because you're doing it 30 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
Because as you said, it doesn't matter even what your performance is. They might be focused on your foot or focused on your hand or focused on the chalice that you're, right? It's all of that stuff when you're giving this performance. It's like, it's so technical and then edited together, and you just don't learn the craft of acting that way.
Yeah.
You learn it on stage. And this is why somebody of Denzel's age and stature is going back to Othello, going back to Shakespeare.
Yes. On top of it all.
And he, his biggest thing is what he says is it doesn't stop. No one's there to say cut if it's not going well.
Right.
You have to keep going through it. And that's the pressure.
I love that.
That we need to learn acting under.
Yes.
Where it does not stop. And we can't ever mentally check out of that.
Yes. That's so beautiful and profound, Marco, because I can also equate that to life. Like, that's how important it is. Like, you keep going, you move forward. And that's what maybe one of the reasons I love it too. That exact thing. You are doing that with someone else, a group of people collaboratively, and you get better. Yeah. Especially when you have a director who cares, or you're surrounded by people who take the craft seriously and have fun, obviously, with it. But you improve, you progress, you evolve for the better. And something in film that has nothing to do with you, I guess. It's just I don't know, you're a puzzle piece there. And that's nothing wrong. Like, you have a quality that they're obviously looking for, which is great. But that ownership, that responsibility, and then you feel so like, I did it. Okay, what's the next one?
And I know there's a lot of like other little things, like people say, well, what about social media? What if I just, if I have a couple million followers, can that get me a role? And it's like, listen, that can get you noticed. It's not going to get you a role. And even if an independent film says, hey, you know what? We're going to take you out of obscurity and we're going to give you a role in a film just because of your social media following. That gives you one. It doesn't give you a career. So it must depend on what are you doing it. Now, if you're a social media influencer and you just care about doing one because it's cool, but you really want to go back to being an influencer, well, then you do it.
Right. If that's your calling or your passion, you know what I mean? Yeah. You follow that.
If you're a social media influencer just by happenstance and you really want to be an actor, you have to have the training. Yeah. The influencing might get you recognized. It might get you an opportunity. But if you don't have the tools to seize that opportunity, you won't have a career.
I just talked to he was a casting director, it was for Disney, something like that. And at the end, he's like, any questions? Really nice guy. And I said, I have a question that's been keeping me up at night for years. Because as you know, I'm not into social media. It just doesn't hit me. That's not my thing. I said, is it relevant or important to have a social media presence? A, and is it relevant if I have lots of people that are following me? And he was cool, like from New York, Jewish guy from New York. He's like, honestly, what you just said. He basically said, like, we don't give a shit how many people are following you.
Yeah.
Can you do this audition? Can you? So the focus that I've been wasting my brain cells, my brain energy, which are very, like, I need those. It's been keeping me up because I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to do this and that and this, thinking that people are having quote unquote success. But when I'm here, I heard it from you, but I've seen other friends do well with social media stuff. But I loved how he just like, we don't give a damn. We're like, I mean, good for you. Who cares? Can you deliver in this audition?
Right. That's what it's about.
That's it.
Can you do the job?
Can you do the job? I don't give a shit how many. And I loved how he said it. He was so sweet, so funny, so down to earth. But it's so important because then you have the focus. You can focus your energy, like you're talking about, basically on becoming a better actor. So you can get that audition. And it's challenging to get to that level of grounded, centered, comfortable, open. These are elements that we work on, and it takes a while. Maybe for some, not as long, but I always find it like still a little bit of an uphill struggle, but that's okay with me. So yeah,
for big roles, for Hollywood, for TV, they're not going to care about your social media. No. They're really not. Independently, yeah. Like if an independent film, let's say I'm doing a film and I got 20 grand to do a film, and it's like, I wish I had 50 grand to do this film. It's like, oh, but Natalie has 2 million people following her on Instagram. Great. Natalie, I want to hire you for this film, but can you do a post and maybe ask your followers to send us some money to do this film? That's where that comes in. It's not just that you're being hired because you have the following. They want to use your following for money.
Yeah, right.
That's what that is for.
Right? A business transaction.
So you have to understand that too, is yes, a following can help you get cast in an independent film so much as you're willing to use that following to sell the film. And so, there's other things that come in with that.
Yeah.
And again, but then why are you really being hired? Because of your talent and because of your skill?
Why are you an actor?
It's just because of, you might be able to fund us.
Yeah.
You're more of an executive producer at that point.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to look at that. But no, your following doesn't. Now, the one thing that can hurt you, though, on social media is what you post.
Yes, he said that too.
Yeah. What you post can immediately negate you for a job.
Yep.
So you have to be very careful that whatever you post is part of the brand that you're trying to put out there of yourself, of the likeness that you're trying to sell into the film, theater, acting community. Even one negative comment, off-color joke, anything.
Right.
That could be offensive. When you put it out there on social media, it lives forever.
It sure does.
So you have to be super, super, super careful about that. So just, that's why my advice is to actors, no, stay off social media.
Stay off.
No, learn the craft. Put as much as you can to this in-person craft as you can. Do as much theater as you can. Don't consume it, create it. Yeah.
And try to, if you're doing community theater as well, if I can tell my younger self, try to apply the teachings and trainings to that role, no matter what crazy stuff is happening around you, because sometimes it can be unorganized, disorganized, fluffy, or not as professional as you would want them to be. So don't expect them to be professional, but that is your self-challenge to go ahead and dig into the material and do the work previously and focus on that, because you can get disenchanted so quick by being around groups of people that don't have the same mindset you do for the love of the craft. But if you can focus your energy and say, no matter what, this is actually why I'm here. I'm not here to socialize. I'm not here to do this. I'm not here to be upset with the director. I'm just here to do what I can with the material.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. And then leave, because you're not getting paid for it anyway.
All right. And we have, I think we're about at the end of our time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
I know.
Time flies.
It does,
when
doesn't
you're
it?
having fun.
So, if you're interested in finding out more information on what we're talking about too, we have periodic open houses at our studio. So just go to truthfulacting.com and there's a link for open houses, and you can check when our next one is. We'd love to see you there. And we of course, can then talk more about what we teach and how we teach it, and answer any questions that you have there as well. But until then, I hope you have an amazing week. I hope that things go well for you, that you do something fun. Remember to reward yourselves for the risks that you take, and treat yourself and others with kindness. All right, everyone. We will be back soon. Bye now.
Bye.
If you'd like to learn more about our studio and what we do, you can find us online at truthfulacting.com. And check out truthfulactingonline.com for our Learn at Home at Your Own Pace courses.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.